Je m'excuse, on en a député.
I apologize. Now, I will say that we will move on to member statements.
Honorable député de la Pointe-Lille.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-Lille. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the citizens of La Pointe-de-Lille who elected me to represent them and to defend the cause of independence for Quebec. And I also want to take this opportunity to highlight the importance here in this House of ensuring the future of French in Quebec and in Canada, and to be able to debate this issue in a respectful and democratic way. The Official Language Act is one thing, but we see that French across the country is diminishing, and also French in Montreal is as well. We have seen that the federal official languages policy is not working well, and so I would ask for cooperation on behalf of all members.
Hastings, Lennox, and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, it is a great honor to stand in this House for the first time to thank the people of Hastings, Lennox, and Addington for placing their trust in me as their elected representative. I would also like to thank my wife, family, friends, and supporters for their love, support, and sacrifice. We have spoken, the government has talked about a change in tone and increasing accountability and collaboration, and I couldn't agree more. I would like to add to this goal two important lessons that I learned while serving municipally under the recently retired 90-plus-year-old Reeve of Tynanega Township, Margaret Walsh. If we wish to serve the interests of all of our constituents, we must, one, put aside partisan politics, and two, don't think about the next election. If we do the right thing because it is the right thing to do, the rest will take care of itself. I look forward to serving with all members in this House in the interest of all Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honoured to rise today for the first time in this 42nd Parliament as the first member to represent the constituents of Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek, and to thank them for placing their confidence in me. As your representative, I will continue to work hard every day to help make Canada the best country in which to live, work, and raise a family. We have so much to be thankful for here in Canada. This Christmas season, I hope we all take the time to reflect on the many blessings we have received. In my case, my husband, our 4 children, their spouses, and our grandchildren, who are my inspiration and give me great hope for our future. In the spirit of the season, may we share generously with those who are less fortunate and make this a memorable Christmas for all. I wish my honourable colleagues here in this place, and indeed all Canadians, a safe and blessed Christmas.
Honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this is my first opportunity to rise in the House, I want to thank the great people of Kingston and the Islands for the privilege of following many notable parliamentarians from our riding, including Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, and of course, more recently, the Honourable Peter Milliken, the longest-serving Speaker of this House. I rise today to recognize the amazing work of countless organizations in Kingston and the Islands, both public and private, currently preparing to accept hundreds of Syrian refugees into our community. Families, men, women, and children who need us now more than ever. In the light of recent world events, we cannot give in to fear, Mr. Speaker. We have a shared responsibility, and Kingston and the Islands will proudly play its part. I'm honored to represent a community that embodies such enthusiasm, generosity, and compassion when called to action. Thank you.
Honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today is the International Human Rights Day. This year, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has taken the opportunity to make the world community aware of the 2 international covenants on human rights, which provide a framework for rights and freedoms that all the world's citizens should have.
Mark this occasion together we should be mindful of those who have struggled to guarantee these basic liberties. Men and women like Raif Badawi, the Saudi blogger and dissident sentenced to imprisonment and lashes for his ideas. Or Malala, whose advocacy for the right to education has inspired us all. On behalf of the New Democratic Party, I invite all members to honor those who fight so valiantly for the rights of all human beings. Thank you.
The honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, as this is the first time I'm addressing this House, I'd like to thank those who helped get me here. My wife Barb, our wonderful family, the amazing campaign team, and 34,303 voters in Guelph that helped get me here. Mr. Speaker, as you know, we're currently facing a historically tragic humanitarian crisis with unprecedented numbers of refugees displaced from Syria. I rise today to acknowledge an incredible effort currently underway in Guelph to bring 50 families to our community in the coming weeks. This is a community-wide and entirely locally funded effort spanning across several faith groups, local businesses, and social agencies. Guelph entrepreneur Jim Estel, the driving force behind this project, has provided the financing, $1.5 million, arranged employment and mentorship. On behalf of the people of Guelph, I wish to thank everyone involved for their great efforts to help the
Honourable member. Honourable member for Beauport, Côte de Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the voters of Beauport, Côte de Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix, which is, in my view, the most beautiful riding in Quebec, and I appreciate their trust that they showed me in the last election. I'm proud to be able to play an important role in the riding where we have major challenges and a passionate people. I will work tirelessly to make progress on issues affecting the region and work with decision makers and organizations and others, all of those who want to work together to develop this wonderful part of the country. It is important for me to promote our local artisans, and that's why I encourage everyone in the riding to promote our local products, and I will certainly do so here in Ottawa. Whether we are talking about cheese from Île-d'Orléans, from the Charlevoix region, microbreweries from Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré or Baie-Saint-Paul.
For Ottawa West Nepean.
I rise today on the 67th International Human Rights Day when we celebrate the day on which the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
We all know that there are people in the world whose civil, economic, political, and social rights are trampled. I witnessed this in my work, which has led me to promote human rights and democracy in places like Congo, the Balkans, and Bangladesh. I have seen how these rights have been abolished or violated.
For freedom, democracy, and human rights at home and abroad. Canada is needed in the world now more than ever to be a leader and promote the Universal Declaration. And at home, I am so proud to see our government uphold our platform commitment to a full national public inquiry on our own human rights tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the 26th anniversary of the award of the Nobel Prize to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. As the Member of Parliament for Parkdale High Park, thousands of my constituents are Tibetans who take great pride in the cultural and spiritual leadership of the Dalai Lama. The important work of spreading the Dalai Lama's teachings and wisdom are being done in my community in Toronto by the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre and its president, Mr. Sonam Lankar. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is not simply a leader for Tibetans, Mr. Speaker. He's a leader and example for us all. The global community recognized his tireless advocacy for the cause of peace, with the award of the Nobel Prize on the 10th of December 1989. On that date, His Holiness accepted the award with great humility, noting that, quote, "I am no one special, but I believe the prize is a recognition of the true value of altruism, love, compassion, and nonviolence, which I try to practice." I ask all members of this House to join me in recognizing this significant anniversary.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to express my gratitude to the people of Lévis, Bellechasse, and Les Etchemins for the strong mandate they gave me. I want to say thank you, a heartfelt thank you for giving me this fourth opportunity to contribute to sustainable development in our region, our families and our companies, our seniors, and everyone will benefit. The throne speech contained nothing about the various problems that we are dealing with in our agricultural, dairy sectors. With the Liberals, yes, Canada is back. It is back with rhetoric, deficits, and hidden tax increases. There's nothing for farmers, as I mentioned. We need to help Quebecers.
The honourable member for Don Valley East.
Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to thank the constituents of Don Valley East for re-electing me to Parliament. My riding is proud to host 3 architectural jewels of Toronto: the Aga Khan Museum, the Smiley Centre, and the Aga Khan Park in Canada, built by His Highness the Aga Khan with his own funds. On December 13th, His Highness will be celebrating his 79th birthday. I rise in the House today to pay a special tribute to a remarkable human being. His tireless efforts in building bridges across the globe, his commitment to eradicating poverty and ignorance of millions of people, irrespective of race or religion, through the AKDN network are unparalleled. I was fortunate to have worked with His Highness in establishing the Global Centre for Pluralism here in Ottawa. Happy birthday, Hazimam. May all who come in touch with you benefit from your integrity, humility, honesty, and courage to do good.
Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the people of my riding and my family who helped me to become a Member of Parliament.
Who I lost last year. She taught me how to stay brave and courageous in the face of adversity.
Today, Canada joins with every other country to celebrate the International Human Rights Day, which is also the end of the 16 days of activism against gender violence. We take this opportunity to remind all Canadians that a life without violence is a fundamental human right.
The role to play in protecting that right. It can be as simple as showing respect in all of our interactions with each other and teaching our children to do the same. If all Canadians commit to ending gender-based violence, our actions can make a real difference for women, girls, and all Canadians.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Mr. Speaker, on this day 67 years ago, nations came together to establish a world standard for the human rights of all individuals. Human Rights Day serves to remind the international community of the political, civil, economic, social, and cultural rights that everyone deserves, no matter their creed, race, or wealth. Today is an opportunity to reaffirm and amplify Canada's voice for these global values. As Canadians, we often take these rights for granted. Unfortunately, countless individuals around the world continue to endure levels of persecution that are unimaginable in Canada. As citizens of one of the most prosperous, democratic, open and tolerant countries in the world, we have a responsibility to stand up for those who cannot. So today, Mr. Speaker, we honor all advocates of human rights for their tireless efforts, often in the face of violent opposition, to promote and protect the rights of all people.
The honourable member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, today is International Human Rights Day, a day to celebrate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Declaration outlines the basic rights of each and every citizen of this world. We have collectively agreed that certain rights need to be protected, yet we failed to give life to these rights. Around the world, there isn't a moment that passes without human rights being routinely violated. As Canadians, we can celebrate our achievements in advancing human rights and dignity, especially on the day where we welcome 164 Syrian refugees. But we need to be mindful that much work lies ahead, particularly with our Indigenous people. I want to recognize the indelible work of human rights defenders who are often threatened or worse, killed for the work. I'm proud to welcome to Canada and to Parliament Hill Mr. Hossein Raisi, an Iranian lawyer protected this year by the Scholars at Risk program between Carleton University and the University of Ottawa. Mr. Raisi has defended the civil, political, and human rights of Iranians. Let's celebrate these outspoken heroes and commit to achieving human rights for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member. The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great honor to be one of the first New Democratic MPs elected from Saskatchewan in over a decade. Now, far be it from me to stand up and declare Canada's back, but I am pleased to report that the birthplace of Canadian social democracy is back.
Here, here.
Saskatchewan's new MPs have enjoyed our first week in this House, but tomorrow I will go to Rideau Hall for the presentation of a meritorious service medal to one of my constituents. Kim Sutherland founded Street Culture Kids in 1997 to provide housing, education programming, and work experience to at-risk youth in Regina. We thank Kim for his service to our community.
The honourable member for
The honourable member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the House that this throne speech contains not a single mention or paragraph or word on agriculture. Perhaps the new government just made a mistake. It's very embarrassing for their own members that are representing rural ridings. It's difficult for them to be able to look farmers in the eye and tell them that they are defending them, and yet the family farm is the foundation of the Canada that we hold dear today. Products and technology evolve, but one thing remains, and that is that long before sunrise till long after sundown, farmers are working hard. The agricultural and agri-food sector is an economic activity worth over $100 billion a year and employs over 2 million Canadians. Our party has always made farmers a priority.
The honourable member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was the week before Christmas, and all through the land, a spanking new government was now in command. We will soon settle in for debating and voting, but after 10 years over there, forgive me for gloating. It began August 2nd, an 11-week campaign which Canadian voters believe was insane. Conservatives were disappointed, not pleased with their tally. They expected more bounce from that Rob Ford rally. Their refugee plan left them wounded and smartened when it became disemboweled by Rosemary Barton. And the cultural practice tip line, add that to the list. Yes, the Tories were angry, but the Dippers, they were pretty angry too. The loss left them stinging. They were wounded and sore when all they needed was 35 seats more. And our Green Party leader, she has no room to laugh. Her fledgling young party was reduced by 1/2. Canadians have spoken and have done so with zeal. They want hope for the future and change that is real.
Order. I was I was given the indication by members actually to my left that I should be generous to the member for Cape Breton Canso in the time for his statement. This time, given the season and all. Oral questions orales.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal election promise was to maintain deficits at $10 billion. Unfortunately for taxpayers, they have already broken that promise. The Prime Minister cannot continue to blame others. He is in charge of spending now. So what is his new number? 20, 30, 40 billion? How big will his deficit be? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were very clear from the beginning that we were always going to be open and transparent with Canadians concerning the state of our finances and our projections. What we've always said is that there are two main points. We will continue to diminish the debt to GDP ratio and ensure that we return to balanced budgets before 2019. And that is what we are going to do. Thank you.
The opposition.
Province of Alberta, people are worried. With dropping oil prices, tens of thousands of Albertans have lost their jobs. Now, what has been the Prime Minister's response? Nothing. Not a mention to date. If it was the auto sector or the aerospace sector, the Liberals would be scrambling to help. But to the Prime Minister, I guess Albertans are just collateral damage. Why is the Prime Minister turning his back on Albertans in their time of need?
The Honourable the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the previous government make a big show about being a great friend to Alberta and to the oil industry, but unfortunately, for 10 years, they got nothing done. For 10 years, they weren't able to build the pipeline. They built their entire strategy around hoping that oil prices would remain high, and when they didn't, they were unable to help Alberta. That's why we're working hard to lower taxes for the middle class and to get our resources to market sustainably and environmentally responsibly.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That'll be cold comfort to people in Alberta that are facing Christmas without a job right now, but we look forward to the green jobs that the Prime Minister will create very shortly. Mr. Speaker, let's remember that the refugees arriving tonight are fleeing from ISIS. Canada made the right decision to send our CF-18s as part of the global fight. Has demonstrated a total failure in leadership by stepping back. Mr. Speaker, if they won't show leadership, this Conservative Party will. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and vote with us tonight and keep our CF-18s in the fight?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've made clear many times, that Canada continues to be engaged in a robust manner with the coalition, including militarily on top of the great initiatives on humanitarian and refugees. And not only are our allies understanding of that, they are supportive of that. In fact, for the first time in almost 20 years, the White House will be hosting a Canadian Prime Minister for a state dinner. Right. That's the kind of good relationship we're building with our allies.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, last Sunday, President Obama referred to his close allies in the fight against ISIS, Germany, France, and Great Britain, but no mention of Canada. In the speech from the throne, the government talks about the United States as its best friend and partner. Yesterday, again, Mr. Speaker, President Obama asked his allies to intensify their efforts to fight ISIS. Why is the Prime Minister of Canada turning his back on his best friend by stopping the bombing? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the previous government neglected relations with the United States. It sought to pick fights, it was aggressive, and insulted the United States on a number of occasions. We're working in a positive manner because we want to build a better relationship for better jobs here in Canada. And the United States has just invited the Prime Minister of Canada to a state dinner in Washington, something that has not happened for 19 years. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, to justify the fact that the government is going to impose its democratic reform without a referendum, the Prime Minister referred to the unilateral repatriation of the Constitution in 1982. Can the Prime Minister please explain to Quebecers and to Canadians how the repatriation of 1982 is a good example to follow when it comes to democratic reform? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. It's very strange that this Conservative Party is so concerned with consultation and consulting Canadians. This is the first time in the history of this country where there was democratic reform put forward without consultation of Canadians or the opposition parties. You wanted to change the rules to your advantage. Canadians saw through that, and they chose to not follow your way of doing things. I would like to remind the Right Honourable Prime Minister that he must address the Speaker of the House, because he knows that I did not do those things. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Yesterday, RCMP Commissioner Bob Paulson made a stark admission that there are racists in the RCMP. What specifically is the government doing to combat this racism? And will the government make the mandate of the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women broad enough to include issues like systemic racism in judicial and police institutions in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question. Obviously, racism in any form is unacceptable and runs contrary to Canada's long history of diversity and inclusion. The Government of Canada is committed to real change and supports decisive action by the RCMP to hold its members accountable as we are beginning the process of an inquiry into missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. We will, of course, fold in a broad range of stakeholders and questions to ensure that we create justice and accountability in a nation-to-nation relationship moving forward.
The member for Outremont.
We salute the intention, the stated intention of this government to create a new era in relationships with Aboriginal peoples, but we know that after years of disappointment and broken promises, the government must show results. The Prime Minister committed to end boil water advisories on all reserves in Canada. Can the Prime Minister tell us when his government will come forward with a plan with specific deadlines to fill this promise in the first mandate as promised? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it's unacceptable that in a country like Canada, there are still so many communities that don't have access to drinking water, clean water. And then the Government of Canada committed during the election campaign to ensure that by 5 years from now, there are no longer a need for boil water advisories in those communities. I will work with those communities, and we will make the necessary investments to end this very serious problem. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, a quote. In terms of Canada Post, we promise to restore home mail delivery. Did the Prime Minister say this? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Liberal Party committed very clearly to end the installation of community mailboxes by Canada Post as was being done by the previous government, and to work with Canadians, taxpayers, Canada Post, and different stakeholders to ensure that Canadians receive the services that they have a right to expect. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Last year, the federal court ruled that withholding health care from refugees was, quote, cruel and unusual, and it ordered the federal government to reinstate the federal health program. During the campaign, the Liberals promised to fully restore health care for all refugees. But yesterday, we learn that the Liberal government is restoring federal health benefits for refugees from only one country. Ignoring the courts is not real change. It's what we had before the election. Why is the Liberal leader picking and choosing which vulnerable people can get help?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
The Liberal Party of Canada committed to restoring health funding for refugees. We will be doing exactly that.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear in the House today that the Prime Minister is really excited about quaffing champagne and nibbling on canapes in the White House. But here's what he has to say about terrorism. He has an aversion to talking about terrorism, talking to Canadians about the reality of terrorism. He said in this very House, what we will not do is continue to try to talk about it and give ISIS any free publicity. Meanwhile, our American allies, our French allies, our British allies have no problem calling out ISIS. Why are the Liberals sitting quietly by while our allies take on the burden alone?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
The question, Mr. Speaker, is why my honourable colleague is distorting the policy of the Government of Canada. The Government of Canada is very proud of what our men and women in uniform are doing. They are courageous, and they are requested by our allies in order to strengthen our contribution in the coalition. We'll do it in an effective way, in an efficient way, in an optimal way, courageously, as Canada is always doing.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, we still have no plan from the Liberals on our mission against ISIS. Canadians support this fight. They deserve to know why we are turning our back. Our allies deserve a partner, one that does not cut and run in the thick of the fight. That has never been the Canadian way. What is the plan? The Honourable Minister of Global Affairs. Now, there's a more reasonable question, Mr. Speaker. It's the role of the opposition to ask when the plan will come. Well, the plan is coming, Mr. Speaker. And in the meantime, the plan of the previous government is still in place. There's no vacuum between the two plans. We're working with our allies, and it would be easy to, come up with a plan on the back of a napkin, but we're working with our allies to make sure that Canada strengthens the role of the coalition in an optimal and complementary way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, as you see, there's no plan. When the Prime Minister announced that he would pull Canada's fighter jets out of the combat mission against the jihadist death cult ISIS, there was only two groups that were celebrating that Canada was going to back down: the Liberals and ISIS. Canada should be standing shoulder to shoulder with our allies in this fight. The brave men and women of the Canadian Forces are always willing and able to do the heavy lifting. We must do our part in the fight against ISIS. Why does the Prime Minister want to cut and run from stopping ISIS?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Canada and our allies have stood shoulder to shoulder, and I have stood shoulder to shoulder in combat with our allies. And that's exactly the way I'm going to be planning the next process moving forward, making sure that we have an appropriate plan. I'm going to take the time to make sure that we get this right and take the fight to ISIS. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
They aren't proposing, Mr. Speaker, that they are going to take the fight to ISIS. They're bringing home and withdrawing from the combat mission. It was just over a year ago that we lost 2 members of our Canadian Armed Forces to attacks carried out by ISIS-inspired terrorists right here in Canada. Over the last few weeks, we witnessed ISIS-orchestrated terrorist attacks in Lebanon, in Egypt, in France, and now the United States. Clearly, ISIS is willing to bring the fight to us. Why won't the Prime Minister take the fight to ISIS? Why does he want to retreat?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the member opposite brought this important issue up in terms of the threats to our country. And this is something we need to take very seriously, but we also need to make sure that we identify the right indicators, that we can identify the right threats. When it comes to radicalization, it's a completely different fight. Yes, we need to fight them in their territory, but we also need to be mindful of making sure that we have the right tools to prevent radicalization of our own Canadians in this type of fight. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, after terrible attacks around the world from ISIL, Canada must ensure that Canadians are safe while respecting commitments to its allies. Taking our CF-18s out of Iraq and Syria sends the message that Canada doesn't take the global threat of ISIS seriously. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister abandoning the fight against ISIS and abandoning our allies? The Honourable Minister of Global Affairs. Mr. Speaker, this is not a guerre between religions. This is not a guerre between civilizations. This is a conflict between human civilization and terrorism, and Canada will play its part courageously in Iraq and around the world in the best way possible in cooperation with its coalition allies. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, while the international coalition is intensifying bombing against ISIS in Iraq and Syria, the Prime Minister is being obstinate in taking our CF-18s out of the fight, despite calls from the international coalition to keep them there. What will it take for the Prime Minister to finally rise up and defend Canadian values alongside our allies?
National Defense.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to airstrikes, it's one tool in terms of in toolbox in taking the fight to ISIS. We need to make sure that we look at all the capabilities when we assess the situation here. Because if we don't, and if we just come up with a knee-jerk reaction plan, we will not be affected. And I want to make sure, as a Minister of National Defense, when we propose the right option, it's going to be effective and take the fight to ISIS like we want to. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Desniffy, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, the government has promised to implement all 94 recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. That includes Recommendation 29 to conclude all outstanding claims from residential school survivors through negotiation. Canada must stop forcing survivors into a painful and adversarial court process, like the one taking place in Labrador. Will the Minister commit to keeping her promise and resolving all outstanding claims through negotiation?
The Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
I thank the member for the question, and I do believe that the courts are not the right place to deal with so many of these issues that are so painful for the survivors, and I endeavour to work with the Minister of Justice to figure out how we can get these things out of the courtroom and back to the negotiating table.
Bravo.
The Honourable Minister and the Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the sentiment, but reconciliation can't just be words. So I'm going to ask my question to the Minister of Justice. Just last week, her lawyers were lambasted in the Newfoundland Supreme Court for their unconscionable behaviour in resisting the rights of the survivors of the Newfoundland and Labrador residential schools, just as they obstructed the rights of the survivors of St. Anne's Residential School. So will this minister personally intervene? Will she tell her lawyers to stand down and end this culture of obstruction that has denied the rights of these survivors of such these brutal institutions? Do the right thing.
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for the question and the statement, and certainly recognize and respect the conversations that we've had on this issue. Our government is committed to establishing a nation-to-nation relationship that respects an approach that will lay the framework for true reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. I am talking with my colleague and others on this issue, and we will chart a path forward that actually respects the relationship that we are going to pursue with Indigenous peoples. So thank you.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians will soon be welcoming Syrian refugees, but they also want the assurances that proper security screening is taking place. Can the Minister of Public Safety guarantee to this House that each and every Syrian refugee will get a full, comprehensive security screening that is also signed off by the RCMP, Intelligence and Border Services?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the RCMP and CSIS and CBSA all indicated together collectively that they were fully satisfied with the security procedures that had been put in place with respect to the Syrian refugees. Indeed, they helped design them.
Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week in the House, the minister talked about biometrics as one of the layers of security screening, but comparing fingerprints to a Canadian database, Mr. Speaker, is meaningless. Without previous records, biometrics cannot be used to identify people. Can the minister admit that biometrics are not part of security screening, but a smokescreen to give Canadians the assurance that security is taking place as they're actually rushing their plan through?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we have made clear from the very beginning that there will be no compromise in the security procedures, that they will adhere to the highest Canadian standards. That includes the selection of the individuals who will be considered for possible refugees to Canada. It'll be included in the interviews that are done, extensive interviews by trained professionals. It's done in other ways like biometrics, and in other ways like checking against computer records, and in other ways like constant and repeated identification examinations. Every step in the way will make sure that the result is satisfactory and Canadians can be proud of what we've accomplished.
The member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, our party supports Canada doing its part to assist with the Syrian refugee crisis, be it through humanitarian aid, the international mission to contain the so-called Islamic State, and welcoming refugees to our country. Out of the 1,537 permanent resident visas the Minister's Department says has been granted to Syrian refugees since November the 4th, will the Minister tell us how many of their resettlement applications were started prior to October 19th of this year?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, this is a wonderful day when we welcome the first plane full of 160 new Canadians. And I learned from a 10-year-old girl when I went to visit an apartment that was being made ready for refugees how to say this in their own language. So I would teach every member of the House to say, Akalam wa sakalam fi Canada.
The member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Many of these new permanent residents to Canada will expect answers from their immigration minister. Mr. Speaker, the minister hasn't said if other citizenship and immigration service lines would be impacted by the government's arbitrary year-end target for their Syrian refugee initiative. This is troubling to many Canadians who have pressing applications in other streams. So, Mr. Speaker, have any visa officers been displaced from other duties, including processing spousal sponsorship applications, to meet the government's self-imposed timeline for the Syrian refugee initiative? And if so, how many?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Well, we're into sunny ways. I would suggest my colleague look a little more cheerful. But in answer to her question, and I will give an answer, I can assure her that my department has assured me that no people have been displaced from other refugees. There will be no impact on their entry.
Order. Order. I encourage members to try not to be provocative in this place and to show respect for each other on all sides. On all sides. Honourable member for Saskatoon West. Excuse me.
During the election, the Prime Minister promised to restore home mail delivery. That means he would reverse the cuts. But now the Minister of Public Works says people who lost home delivery won't get it back. They'll be stuck with super boxes. The government is turning their back on 850,000 Canadians who lost door-to-door service. Why did the Prime Minister promise to restore home delivery if that's not what his government plans to do?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable member for her question. What we committed to do was to do away with the installation of roadside mailboxes, and that happened. We've also committed to a comprehensive review consulting Canadians from coast to coast to coast about the future of Canada Post.
The Honourable Member for
Jonquière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Promising one thing and doing the opposite just feeds cynicism. In the campaign, the Prime Minister was clear. A Liberal government would restore home mail delivery. Now they're promising consultations. Wow. That all resembles a strategy to simply hide the fact that they're backing down from their commitment. The question is simple. Can the minister confirm that the government no longer plans to restore home mail delivery?
The Minister of Public Services.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we did what we said we were going to do. We put a stop to the installation of roadside mailboxes so that Canadians could continue to receive door-to-door where the mailboxes weren't installed. We've also committed to a review of Canada Post, and we're going to do that so Canadians can have their say.
Right.
Now the member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, Surrey, and in particular my riding of Surrey Newton, is facing a violent crime situation day in, day out, and residents are very concerned. In April of 2015, the City of Surrey requested 100 new RCMP officers to combat this problem. Can the Minister of Public Safety please update the House on the progress of putting those 100 new police RCMP officers into action?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for that question and for his tremendous efforts to ensure that his constituents have the police services that they require. I'm pleased to inform the House that 75 of the 100 officers that were requested have actually arrived now in Surrey, and an additional 10 officers will be arriving very shortly. The RCMP expect the remaining 15 to be assigned by spring ahead of the deadline in April.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Lévis-Chemin-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When a government respects and wants to change democracy, it consults the people. Several provincial governments have done so, Ontario, BC, PEI. However, last October, only 27% of Canadian voters voted in favour of the Liberal Party. Mr. Speaker, what does it take for this Liberal government to understand that you can't change the fundamental rules of a democracy that date back to Confederation without consulting all people?
The Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I can appreciate the members opposite newfound passion for public consultations. Allow me to reiterate. In the months ahead, Canadians will have an ongoing conversation about electoral reform, a conversation that will answer many questions, not just one. Now, I can appreciate that the party opposite may be uncomfortable with hearing a diverse range of views, but we are not.
Yeah. Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
I'm reliably informed that nothing is more diverse than the views expressed in a referendum. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, Ontario's Liberal government consulted Ontarians in a referendum on electoral reform. It lost 37 to 63%, but the Liberal minister who administered that referendum still thinks it was the right thing to do. Back in June, she took issue with the Prime Minister's undemocratic approach and said, if you're going to totally change the electoral system, I think it would have to be a referendum. But what's the lesson this Prime Minister has drawn from 2007? It is, don't ask Canadians because they might not approve the system that his minions are designing. Provincial Liberals don't fear a referendum. Why does this Prime Minister fear it?
Now the Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to try this way. As part of a national engagement process, we will ensure that electoral reform measures such as ranked ballot, proportional representation, mandatory voting, and online voting are fully and fairly studied and considered. And as part of that process, we are absolutely committed to ensuring that Canadians from coast to coast to coast are heard.
Now the member for Banff, Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, she quotes from a platform that was supported by 39% of Canadians. She quotes from a platform as if that's the only reason anybody voted Liberal. Maybe she believes that. But Jonathan Rose, the expert who designed the electoral reform proposals that were put to Ontarians in 2007, also disagrees with the Prime Minister. He said, I think it shouldn't be a blue ribbon panel deciding this, or politicians. It should be put to a national referendum for approval. So if he's not afraid of it, the Ontario Liberals are afraid of it. Why is Justin Trudeau afraid of it?
Members are very spirited today, I know. We're near the end of, in December, and it's the season and all that, but let's remember that we don't use personal names here. We refer to titles and riding names and so forth. I think we have the Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we firmly believe that a decision on an issue as important as this deserves a thoughtful and comprehensive process. We will not prejudge the outcome of this process. Early in the new year, I will work with the House Leader to convene an all-party parliamentary committee to assess all possible options and move forward.
Colleagues, let's all try. We're in the spirit, but let's all try to restrain ourselves and listen to the other person's argument, whether we like it or not. Sometimes we don't, but let's try to listen, show respect for them, but also, more importantly, for this place. The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's quite clear the minister has made it very clear that they're doubling down, and they'll refuse to ask Canadians about fundamentally changing our electoral system. This is the method of voting that we've used since Confederation. Hear, hear. We're not talking about routine amendments here. There's 3 provinces that have all proposed fundamental change, and they all knew that it was important enough to put that question to a referendum. If the Liberal Party is so sure that they have the support of Canadians, why are they so afraid to put it to a referendum?
The Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Anyone's afraid of a referendum.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians entrusted us with a mission to restore the integrity in our electoral process, to restore fairness, and to ensure that every vote counts. We will deliver on that process, and we have committed to engaging the people of this country, young and younger at heart, in this engagement process.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, thousands of children go to school on an empty stomach. Thousands of seniors are living in poverty. And they would benefit from a new Canada Child benefit or to improved GIS. The promises made by that government. But what is the government's priority? Cutting taxes rather, for people who earn between $90,000 and $200,000. Can the minister explain why the government didn't decide to make it a priority to help the people who really need it? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member opposite for her question. It is a very pertinent one. I know that she is happy to see that this government has great ambition with respect to fighting poverty, to focusing on inclusion, and I hope that she will listen carefully to the announcements we will be making in the near future.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are giving a $700 tax break to the well-off, while 7 out of 10 Canadians get nothing. Seniors waiting for an increased pension are told to hang on. Parents who are struggling to pay for childcare are told to wait. But a banker who makes $190,000 a year gets help. Where is the urgency to help those that need it most? And why are Canadians who live in poverty not getting anything, while the wealthy get another handout?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we've started this week with an important step to help Canadians. We've introduced a tax cut for the middle class. We're going to move forward in Budget 2016 with a measure that we know will take hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty and help 9 out of 10 Canadian families. That will be our Canada Child benefit, and it will make enormous difference for the most vulnerable in this country.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In September, the Prime Minister indicated that he had problems with the mandatory sentences that were introduced by our Conservative government. Yes, Mr. Speaker, under our government, people who bring illegal drugs into Canada, those who kidnap and sexually exploit children, and those who produce and distribute child pornography all go to jail. Why does the Prime Minister have a problem with that?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government government is committed to doing and undertake a review of the criminal justice system, including sentencing, and we will do that in a comprehensive way, engaging with our colleagues in the provinces and territories. As respects to mandatory minimums, we will also be reviewing those. Certainly with respect to mandatory minimums for the most serious of crimes, we support that, but only with respect to adherence to the Charter, and we will continue to update this House on our progress.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous Conservative government did everything in its justice legislation to protect victims and hold violent criminals accountable for their crimes. This government, on the other hand, wants to go easy on violent criminals by eliminating mandatory minimums. Mr. Speaker, why does this government insist on giving violent criminals a break?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to reviewing the criminal justice system, looking at sentencing, including mandatory minimums. We are taking an approach to the criminal justice system that focuses not only on punishing offenders, but also on restorative justice, being smart on crime.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government is punishing law-abiding gun owners again, bringing in a needless permit regime that would require gun owners to get a permit every single time they go hunting or go to the range. Clearly, it's a gateway to bring back the billion-dollar gun registry and make life as difficult as possible for rural Canadians. I have to ask, why do the Liberals always target law-abiding gun owners, and why not go after criminals for a change?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is just simply wrong in what he says about the long gun registry. We made it very clear in our platform that we have no intention of reinstating the long gun registry. We announced a number of other measures in the platform that have to do with public safety and gun safety in particular, and we will implement our platform, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Gatineau. Mr. Speaker, as the member for Gatineau, I know just how professional our federal public service is. Like my colleagues, I personally met with thousands of our public servants who want a government that respects them and values their contributions. This government committed to negotiating in good faith with our public servants. Can the President of the Treasury Board inform this House of the steps that he has undertaken in order to improve relations between the government and federal public servants? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Gatineau. It is a priority for us to restore a culture of respect towards our public service. Recently, I met with 2,000 public servants at an assembly. I met with the union leaders with whom I discussed the report on mental health. Our commitments are clear. We will respect negotiations, we will negotiate in good faith, and we will restore a culture of respect.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, members of the media are telling us that they have been unable to get a hold of the Ambassador for Religious Freedom since the new government was sworn in. The Ambassador has previously been a highly effective advocate internationally, earning widespread acclaim and achieving substantial results. So at a time when religious minorities are more vulnerable than ever before, why is the Ambassador being muzzled?
Why? The Minister of Foreign Affairs.
It's quite rich from this party, Mr. Speaker. We don't muzzle officials at all. They did. They did. They did all over the place. To protect the right of liberty and all the right of religion, freedom of religion, and all the freedoms will be protected as much as possible by this government.
The member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Well, this week, Canada is back in the Hall of Shame on climate change. First, the government showed up at the Paris negotiations with the Conservatives' weak targets. Now they're blocking agreement on compensation for the world's poorest people. This has earned Canada a Fossil of the Day award, just like the old government used to do. It's déjà vu all over again, Mr. Speaker.
When will the government stop blocking negotiations and finally show true leadership on climate change?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it's the contrary. For the first time in 10 years, Canada is being a leader on climate change.
That's the change, and we must congratulate the Minister of the Environment. She has been appointed as a facilitator by the chair of the COP21. It shows how much is great and helping for the result that we want for the fight against climate change. Canada is back, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we were proud to listen to the Prime Minister tell us about the steps taken to settle Syrian refugees in Canada. This shows our commitment to Canadians and the entire world in response to this international urgent crisis. Can the Minister of Canadian Heritage tell the House what steps the government plans to take in order to facilitate the social inclusion of Syrian refugees? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague, the member for Sudbury, for the question. Federal organizations and other partners are currently working with my department to facilitate the social inclusion of Syrian refugees. Moreover, we will be making available to them this evening when they arrive a kit which will include books in English and French, movies and other things. It will cover the diversity of this country, including Aboriginal cultures. So we can count on the warmth and hospitality of Canadians when these new refugees come today.
South Surrey, White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the election, the Liberals told Canadians that $10 billion a year in deficits would be paid for new infrastructure. But as we've seen, this government has already committed billions of dollars in spending, and it has also a $1.2 billion revenue shortfall from this week's tax announcement. And on top of this, there's no new infrastructure spending that has been announced. Right. How much are they going to cut back from their infrastructure plan that was promised to Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, we committed to double our infrastructure funding over the next 10 years. That will help us create sustainable, livable, and healthy communities. And we are committed to do that.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, in 2013, the previous government decided to support action to strike down Bill 99, Quebec legislation to reaffirm Quebec's right to determine its own future. I remind the government of the unanimous motion adopted by the National Assembly to reaffirm the rights of Quebecers to decide their own political future. Will the government withdraw from this case in order to respect the unanimous will of the National Assembly, or will it continue to deny Quebec the right to determine its own destiny?
Étrangère.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, no independent government would be entitled to remove Quebec from this country. It's a question of democracy, and Quebecers, for the vast majority, are very proud Quebecers, are proud Canadians, and they don't want to be forced to choose between these two entities. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-L'Île. Mr. Speaker, 3,500 refugees from Haiti and Zimbabwe, including those who experienced the earthquake in Haiti, are currently being threatened with deportation, and that has been since last June. It's unacceptable and inhumane. The Quebec government has made several requests to stay the decision and for them to receive permanent residency. The federal government is now preparing to bring in thousands of refugees. It's time to take action. Will the Prime Minister commit to taking steps immediately in order to completely regularize their residency status? The Honourable Minister. The answer is yes, Mr. Speaker. Following discussions with the Quebec Minister and the member for Bourassa, we have decided to made the decision that the department will help to regularize the situation for these Haitians, and in consultation with my counterpart, the Minister for Public Safety, we are going to provide the details shortly.
I would like to draw the attention of honourable members to the presence in the gallery of Ms. Catherine Bayliss, who will receive the Governor-General's Meritorious Service Medal in the Civic Division tomorrow. I have notice of 2 points of order. The first one is from the member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Section 49.8, subsection 5 of the Parliament of Canada Act requires that the chairs of the recognized parties inform the Speaker of the House of Commons of the outcomes of the 4 votes that took place in the caucuses that met on November 5th last month. And I also note, Mr. Speaker, that as per practice, that the Speaker tables certain documents, such as bylaws stemming from the Parliament of Canada Act, and seeing that these 3 documents that your office has received stem from that Act, I'm wondering if the Speaker has any plans to lay upon the table here the 3 documents as pertains to the outcome of the votes, the recorded votes that were to have taken place at the first meeting of the 3 recognized parties of this House of Commons.
I wish to thank the member for his intervention. I can assure him that all actions required by the Act to be taken by the Speaker have been taken. Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier in question period, I asked the